Good morning, my friends, juniors, seniors, colleagues, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. And how is everyone today? Today, I'm going to deal with malfunctioning, signs of malfunctioning, and this is the final part of the episode related to malfunctioning. I repeat, this is the final part of the video related to malfunctioning. So let's begin, my friends. I'll just end this malfunctioning. Uh, by the way, I hope you do remember malfunctioning, as I just said in my previous lecture. It's about vision, mission, values. If you don't have, the organization will fall into a problem. And most important thing, what I said is organizations must have a purpose. The purpose must be well established, and the values. These two elements, which I think are utmost important. Having a purpose, and not only a purpose which is well communicated. If you don't have a vision and a mission, that's okay. But having a purpose, well communicated purpose, is essential, and having a value statement. To me, it must be well communicated, well established. The next point which I would like to raise of malfunctioning is the blaming culture. I repeat, the blaming culture. This means blaming someone and the blame continues. Once you start blaming, the blame seems to be endless, and also criticisms for no reason. These two are vices. These two vices must be avoided at any cost. The blaming culture and criticisms. Yes, criticisms is fine if the criticism is constructive. If there is something to learn from the criticism, that's fine. But just for the sake of criticizing somebody is bad. And also the blaming culture. It's dangerous. If you cannot, if you have failed to do some job, if you have failed to do a task, fine, admit it. But it's there's no point in blaming somebody else for your own fault. I'm not saying it's serious. It can be serious at times, but let's be alert that blaming culture is no good. Taking on your own responsibility is what I prescribe, I advocate, and I promote. If I have made a mistake, I'll say, yes, I have made a mistake. I'm a human being, I can make mistakes. So just think about it, about the blaming culture. To me, it's a sign of malfunctioning. It's a sign of something negative within the organization. It needs to be fixed. But first of all, you'll have to realize the trend. If it's blaming culture, that you're blaming somebody else, for it'll continue, and that's negative. That's bad. Low trust within the organization is essential. Trust is essential. If the trust is low, problems arises. There must be trust to a certain extent between the employer and employer, and vice versa. There must be trust. If there is no trust, that's a sign of danger. It's dangerous. You won't be able to accomplish your organizational aims if the level of trust is low. Also remember, if the organization doesn't have a clear agenda, that's also a sign of malfunctioning. If the organization is heading and the people do not know where they're going, it's like shooting in the dark. It's dangerous. There must be a clear agenda of the organization or a clear strategy of the organization. People needs to know where the organization is heading to. It must be well communicated to the rest of the enterprise that this is the state of the organization and where it is heading to. As I said, we need to have a vision also. But if I don't have a vision, what to do? But at least there must be an agenda of the organization, which is well communicated and explained to the rest of the workforce. Also, dictatorial leadership. In this case, it's a case of one man show where decisions are made by one person. Here, decisions are made at the top and no involvement with the relevant people. To some extent, the relevant people may be upset. All decisions are made at the top, and I'm here of no significance, no relevance. Sometimes it may happen. So I'm talking about dictatorial leadership serves the purpose for a limited time, but you'll have to open up. The, there will be a time when you'll have to open the doors. So, dictatorial leadership, too much power in one person may be okay for a while, but not for long. Lack of genuine feedback, which is what is feedback? It is the technique where results and actions are fed back into the system or the original source with the aim to improve the current performance. The genuine feedback should be accompanied with justification and ideally with evidence. The feedback techniques to improve organizational performance, employee performance, departmental performance by gathering information is a must. Here, I would like to also to add that fair feedback. Unfortunately, many organizations, not all, some organizations suffer from biased feedback, and that's a worrying bit. I repeat, that's a worrying bit. Feedback, people must get feedback. They need to know how they're doing, what they're doing, why they're doing. It's important. And I'm talking about positive feedbacks and negative feedbacks. Both are important. And when you're conveying a negative feedback, be careful about the words you choose. It's very, very important. The words you choose when you're conveying a negative feedback. Just be aware of the words. That's all. Some words, remember, my friends, some words can cause frustration, can cause aggressiveness, can cause problems, all sorts of problems. So, picking and choosing the words when you're talking about negative feedback, just pick and choose the words. That's all I'm saying. But yes, feedback is important. And ideally, a formal feedback is more important. Politicization, which is about politics comprising of activities aimed at achieve an objective by the usage of power, authority, maneuvering people in the wrong direction for some benefits. What are the benefits? It is self-interested oriented benefits. Here, politics is unavoidable. At the same time, it can be minimized. And I'm talking about politics of two kinds. Positive politics, that's fine. Politics positive politics has a cause, which is okay. Negative politics is extremely bad for the organization. If that can be minimized, is best. Politics invites groupings, and if the state becomes involved in the politics, that makes the situation or the environment even more complex. So try to actually minimize negative politics. Let's talk about uplifting the organization, inspirational, positivism, not antagonism. Excessive negative politics is worrying. Excessive negative politics is worrying. Next is ineffective meetings. You, me have all been through meetings. Meeting is a way of life. But sometimes we come across meetings which have no meaning. It's very important. Why? Because the meeting is not well planned. In order for meetings to be well planned, you must have an agenda, aims and objectives of the meeting, outcome of the meeting, sequence of the meeting is important, timing of the meeting, date of the meeting, venue of the meeting, who are the attendees. The attendees need to be informed. How long will the meeting last? What do I need to bring on the table to attend the meeting? Is very important. Also, minute taking is important. Sitting arrangements at times can be important. Chairperson, if applicable, and follow up. In fact, when I go to a meeting and I do not see any planning, agenda, timing, venues, there's no chairperson, no real aims and objectives of the meeting, I become upset. It's happened to me many times. But I'd like a structured meeting where people come with a clear purpose. And when they go, they'll go with a sense of direction. The enterprise, the next point is the enterprise seems to be in a crisis mode. The crisis mode is a state of emergency, and some enterprises are always in a crisis mode. That actually means nothing is really planned, and there seems to be no contingency plan in place. The enterprise that is always in crisis, and that is taking too much energy firefighting and less on the management side of things. I repeat, in an enterprise where crisis is chronic, too much energy goes firefighting the crisis. Less energy remains for management. It's very important. So, and why do organizations fall into crisis chronically? Because it is not well planned. Planning is very, very important in my profession, human resource planning. Or entrepreneurs also need to realize planning is very, very fundamental, very, very important. And it is not about planning; it's about timing of the plan. I'm not only talking about planning, it's also about the timing of the plan. It's very, very important. And some organizations, as I said earlier, are in always crisis because the organization is ill planned and the focus is on planning. Lack of training. What can I say? Some entrepreneurs don't realize learning is important, do not realize the significance of learning, do not realize that training adds value to the organization. What can I say? There are some entrepreneurs who will not accept or may accept training, but will not realize that training is about the value of the organization. I've tried many times. Sometimes I've failed, sometimes I haven't, but it's important training or employee development or learning, formal or informal. Both are important. It needs to be encouraged by the top management. They need to understand training is important. Training is not only about individual skills, it's about the collective skills of the enterprise. Lack of team spirit is another issue. Nowadays, in contemporary times, teams are formed, teams need to be managed, and teams have its own dynamism. Here we are talking about there's few people who've actually examined teams. It's only in the last couple of decades that team itself has been a concept, and that needs to be explored. And some people have taken the opportunity to explore teams. For example, Dr. Belbin, Tuckman have really actually gone into the details of a team formation. For example, Tuckman, a great scholar who made a statement or proposed that in order for a team to be effective, teams need to be goes through a couple of stages. Number one stage is forming, where all the people come together. Number two stage is storming, where rules and regulations are debated. Number three is norming, where rules are developed, ground rules are made, responsibilities are clarified. Fourth is performing. Now the performance comes. And then last of all is mourning, where the team is disbanded. But here another issue is about monitoring the team. Too much talk and less action. That's another syndrome. I don't know whether you've come across this or not, but to me, I've come across this several times. Too much talking and less action. It can be irritating, it happens sometimes. Too many managers, can also cause a problem. You've got an enterprise with too many managers and less soldiers. It can happen. I'm not saying it will happen, but in some cases, yes. And that means the organizational structure needs to be balanced. Inept workforce. Here again, I'm talking about the workforce is not really delivering because lack of skills. That means employees need to be trained properly. Low productivity. Output of the employees seem to be low. That's why customers seem to be unhappy at times. Low productivity. Next point is taking someone on board. And being on board is not the same. Taking someone on board is about recruitment and selection. Being on board is when you start playing the game. Here, it's not really here. I'm talking about performance. When you start to build the organization, you start with a great performance by understanding the organization's culture, rules and regulations, aims and objectives. But there are other elements also related to performance. It's not only about clarification. You may have the fastest car in the world, but you may not win the race. I repeat, you may have the fastest car in the world, but you may not win a race. Why? Because there are other elements involved. The skills of the driver, weather, the road condition. So to given just an example of a sports car. Low quality. Quality is everywhere, and everything needs to be quality checked. Management scholars like Demings have concentrated on quality. We also have heard about the Six Sigma. continuous improvement, continuous professional development, all are related to quality. And also the ISO that we talk about is an extremely important organization that deals with quality globally related to the manufacturing sector of the world. It started in 1948. That's what as far as I remember, ISO started in 1948. That's as far as I remember. And its head office is in Geneva, Switzerland. But its concentration is on quality, which I highly appreciate. And that's ISO. Imbalance of power. Politics at times in the workplace may get out of hand. This is the worrying bit. Organizational politics, from this sense, is about political rivalry, deployment of I'll come back within 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You can. It's about communication. I've come across this several times. I'm sitting and wondering what's happening. 30 minutes, 35 minutes, 40 minutes passes by, but I'm still waiting for the meeting. Why? Because the person is too busy doing something. Here I'm talking about time management and also respect. Respect is very, very important to me. If you respect me, I'll respect you. It shouldn't be so. I should respect everybody. But at least I deserve some respect. That's all I can say. Lack of the justice system within the organization can also cause a problem. If the organization lacks the justice system where things are not fair, problems may arise. Lack of discipline is a huge issue. There's a difference between a disciplined workforce and a workforce which is not disciplined. I prefer a disciplined workforce where disciplinary policies are established. People know what is right and what is wrong. If they have a point, if they have to raise an issue, that's a grievances they have, they can raise the issue. And for which organizations need a grievance policy. Lack of transparency and accountability. To me, information that are relevant, timely, and accurate need to be shared. At times, this transparency and accountability is being responsible to someone. We have problems with transparency and accountability. That's another issue, which is very, very significant. The organization which lacks transparency, there's some, there's some, there must be some reason. Lacks the accountability system, there must be another reason for that. But these are issues which need to be addressed. And depends on the situation. But these are issues. Also, misleading information. Be aware of misleading informations. It can be financial information, it can be other informations. But be aware of misleading informations. Also informations given to the customers. Paralysis by analysis. Too much analysis, I think, is not really good. That's my personal experience. Analysis is good, but too much can paralyze the organization. Lack of accountability, which means people need to know whom they should report to, and that person must also monitor the person's performance. Lack of accountability. complaints and grievances. There must be a grievance policy. And if that's on the increase, then there is a problem. There's no point ignoring the problem. There's no point giving a blind eye to the issue if the grievances are high. Also, failing to keep commitments. Commitment should never be taken lightly. If you say something, you have to maintain that. If you cannot, okay. If you cannot keep the promise, at least you can explain why. I've made so many promises in life. Some I've kept, some I haven't. But I need to explain why I could not keep my promises. Management do not want to see the reality. It may sound unusual, but happens from time to time. Top management are just not ready for the consequences. This is where open communication is important. Lack of ethics within the organization. It happens, it can happen. That's another issue. Lack of performance appraisals. I know many organizations who haven't got an appraisal system. It is important to appraise. What are you going to appraise? You're appraising employee performance. It's important. Lack of inductions. Newcomer comes in, but you have to speak to the newcomer about the organization structure, rules and relations of the organization, aims and objectives of the organization, who is doing what within the organization. Needs brief explanation. That's what I call induction, which is very important. Making the feel making giving a feeling of calm is a very, very big issue. Leadership is weak. High absenteeism is also a great concern. Rewarding the wrong person is also another issue. Very, very, very significant points. Rewarding the wrong person. Presenteeism, where you're in the office but your mind is somewhere else. It's another big issue. It can happen. I'm not saying it will, it may happen. You may get signs that the person is in the office, but his mind is somewhere out. It may happen. And if that takes for the yeah, you can't keep your concentration 100%, but it wanders away. Your concentration may wander away, but not always. Lack of conflict management strategy, lack of constructive dialogue, lack of respect within the organization. Where I work, I like to be respected. I deserve respect. I've got my own ego, pride. I've got my own pride, ego, importance, and honor. I like to be respected for that. And I like to give respect. This respect doesn't cost anything. That's why I really feel it's very, very important to respect people and people will respect me. Even if they don't respect, I must respect people because it's not cost. There's no cost involved in respecting somebody. To me, every person is important. I must honor the person, and that's why I should respect people. Stress is important. If there is a symptom of stress, that's important. That's a sign that something is not working right. Unpleasant environment, hostile environment, the blaming culture, excessive blaming culture, all these are negatives which needs to be addressed at some point of time. Time is not wisely managed. Here I'm talking about time management, lack of planning within the organization. As I said earlier, planning is everything, timing is everything. The top management does not seem to understand and apply the principles of management, and the list can go on and on and on. But for the time being, this is the end. This is the end of malpractices. I hope all of you have enjoyed the lecture, and I hope all of you will really understand that malfunctioning means dysfunctional. Cent person functionalism, don't expect cent person functionalism of an enterprise. But some areas we need to be corrected. That's the important point. We need to correct, we need to make corrections. That's the point of discussion. My friends, take it easy, enjoy the rest of the day, and stay calm. I'll meet you very, very soon with another topic. No more of malfunctioning. Take care, brothers and sisters. Take care, my friends. Bye bye.